Nurkanat Zhakypbay is the artistic director of the Zhastar Theater, professor at Temirbek Zhurgenov Kazakh National Academy of Arts, honored worker of the Republic of Kazakhstan. The productions, which the eminent director puts on the stage, won ovation and received prizes at international festivals. He's a teacher who trained more than one generation of actors. You stick to minimalism in staging. Do you lead a minimalist lifestyle too?
Біріншіден уақытпен санаспаймын. Менің балаларым да уақытпен санаспайды. Бұл біздің ең үлкен табысымыздың бірі. Біз еш уақытта демалыс дегенді балалар ойламайды.
Firstly, I do not take time into account, and so do my students. This is one of our differences. We never think about rest. We have no days off. We do not hold any celebrations. At 30 a.m. we are all at work, and at 9 a.m. we are already dressed. We have 2 rooms, and accordingly we are divided into 2 groups. In one room we have vocal exercises, the second room is for dances and training. Thus we spend the whole day. In the evening we have a production, then rehearsal, and sometimes we even stay for the night. So we all work. We begin to stage a new performance. We don't have enough time, but we need to prepare, so we stay overnight. We go to bed late and, having slept a couple of hours, get up at dawn and continue to work. At the same time, we don't have anyone indignant or angry. No one talks about fatigue, does not suffer. Our actors see the fruits of this work in the eyes of the audience. Now our theatre is already becoming known not only within Central Asia, but all over the world. Now we receive invitations via theatre's email. Previously we only dreamed about going to festivals. We begged our ministry, our city department of culture, to send us to festivals. And I always said, guys, the time will come when they will ask us to come, and we will still choose which country we should go to with our performances. And now we have achieved this. Every year we receive several invitations from different countries and decide together where to go. And if there is no money, then I, as the director, make sure that we almost won't have any expenses. Why do I adhere to the minimalist principle? Initially, we did not have funding to allow any kind of scenery. Not at all. And what did we do? In any case, it was necessary to stage performances, and we activated our imagination. We went to the market with a minimal budget and bought cellophane, the cheapest fabric, and did everything with our own hands. To this day, we sew stage clothes ourselves. Girls have already become craftswomen. They sew clothes, guys make decorations. Yes, they all could go to the cinema and earn a lot of money there. They could perform somewhere on the private parties, but no one leaves. Because this is the art they know. They don't want to trade for anything. Do actors of your theatre perform on parties? My actors don't. Never. I explain to them why this cannot be done, and they understand everything. My fellow directors from other theaters even joke about this. They call my actors Nurkanat zombies. They don't drink alcohol, don't perform on parties. Work is the most important thing for them. They enjoy it. No matter what country we go to, we're always welcomed and respected. And the next year, we're again invited to the same festival. You prefer to add songs and movements to your performances. You have few words, and most often your productions are one act. Is this such a peculiar style of yours? Whatever the art, let it be ballet or movies, the viewer must be surprised. And if you do not surprise, then you should not have the illusion that you're engaged in art. Then you are just one of many who is trampling along the dusty path that millions have trod upon you. And what does surprise come from? It consists of emotional impressions. If you cannot evoke emotions in the viewer, if you cannot excite their hearts, then your art is worthless.
Ол күнде бір жаңалық ашқан емес, ол менің жасаған тірлігім жаңалық. Сонша ол аспаннан түскен жаңалық емес бұл. Көп өнердің басын қосуға тырыстым мен. Өнер, ән айтатын опера өнері бар.
I was looking for my way to the hearts of the audience, and I think I found it. But what I do is not an innovation. I just try to put together different approaches from opera, ballet, drama, and circus, from different types of art. Why not combine all this? If my actors can do all this, then why not? So I do it, and I get the fruits of our efforts. Certainly, the work requires directional fantasy, fantasy of a talented person. I think I have enough fantasy and imagination. Since childhood, I grew up in dreams and followed them. And if I cannot convey all this to my students, if together with them I cannot fascinate the viewer, then I think the work is worthless. I always tell this to my students, and they completely understand me. Of course, there were difficult times when we had nowhere to live, nowhere to perform.
Толық түсінді менің ойымды. Әрине қиналған сәттер де болды, өте қиын сәттер де болды. Тұратын жеріміз де болған жоқ. Ойнайтын жеріміз де болған жоқ.
Өзіңіздің шәкіртіңіз Әділ Ахметов айтады.
Your student Adil Akhmetov told me that when they all firmly decided to return to Almaty, you managed to stop them. They say that you are a strong motivator. Is that so?
Режиссердің психолог болу керек, психолог болмаса.
Yes, indeed. Director should be a psychologist. Otherwise, he's not a director at all. I told them, we will have a theater. We will reach success. We will not have free seats. There will be full houses at our plays. We will win ovation. People will applaud you. With this, we began our rehearsals. Now my students say that I'm probably clairvoyant. And I also joke saying, why don't you go back to Almaty? They are laughing. Where will they go? Now we are one of the leading theaters, which is always discussed. We are successful. We are not looking for a spectator. They come to us. Tickets are sold out in advance. Young people who study in the capital have become our main audience. Like in football, we also have a lot of fans.
Асауға тұсауды сахналар кезінде көп ойландыңыз.
Before staging the play, The Taming of the Shrew, you waited a long time for the young actors to mature a little. And in the end, you did stage the play. What other ideas do you have that are awaiting in the wings?
Мен еш уақытта орыстың, немесе ағылшынның, немесе өзбектің, не қырғыздың
I always take works of English, Russian, Uzbek or Kyrgyz authors. But at the same time, I do not adhere to such a position that everything on our stage should look like the English, Russian or Uzbeks. I take the situation and turn it into a taking place among the Kazakhs in our country. I don't paint their faces to imitate the Russians or the British. I don't make them up like Uzbeks or Kyrgyz. I don't dress my actors in their clothes. I dress in our Kazakh clothes. But I don't touch the text at all, not a single one. I do not change the text of the Inspector General by Gogol. I do not touch Shakespearean texts. I reincarnate everything in Kazakh. I'm doing all the movements, music on our basis. For example, when I staged Shakespeare's Hamlet, I named the play Prince. I showed these events in the time of the Sakas. I dressed them in Saka clothes, and it worked. The audience sat in the hall for 2.5 hours without intermission, without any movement. They just froze. Not a single person has budged. They were very surprised. They wore clothes of the Sakas, the music was Kazakh. This is close to the spectator. Why do they come to the Inspector General, to the taming of the shrew? Because they see the Kazakh spirit. What performance are you preparing now? For a very long time I dreamed about Don Quixote and something from the work of Ilyas Yesenbelin. All the plays that I want to stage, they are in front of me on my table. They are all ready. I do not put them together. I lay them out all over the table and look at them. I begin to consider one, read another, I think and imagine. But in parallel, I start another play. Sometimes I have parallel rehearsals of 3 plays. We just said that there are a lot of songs in your performances, and we often hear songs from you that are almost forgotten or have begun to be forgotten. You have even been criticized for turning performances into musicals. Do you accept such criticism? I don't. Each person has his own opinion. If they don't want to accept, let them not accept. This is their business. But I believe that this is correct, and my actors believe that too. And people who criticize will understand everything with time.
Қазір сіздің театрдағы актерлардың алды 30-40 маңайындағы жастар.
The age of your main cast is about 30 to 40 years. You initially did not accept into your team those who are already adult and famous. How many young people are coming to you now, and how do you conduct the selection? I do not take everyone in a row from those whom I taught. I bring my students to the theater, introduce them to the actors who are already playing, and see if they can cope with the work. Will they be able to come at 8 in the morning, spend the night at work, and then rehearse the next day? Only those who are coping with this hard work and devote themselves to it remain with us. Those who disagree leave us. Well, there are few, of course, who are ready for such work. When the theater opened, you could invite experienced actors, but you did not. Was it done on purpose? Yes, on purpose. We could bring together professionals and they would come. But I needed to make a world-class theater. I set such a goal. And for this, I needed actors who would listen to me and would not ask too many questions. I didn't need those who would constantly complain. My students were ready for anything. Do your colleagues imitate you?
Қызығады осындай көрермен менде де болса екен деп есептейді. Осындай елге танымал болсақ.
They do, I know, but they do it wrong. They show curiosity. They want to have the same audience, dream of getting to international festivals. They want to stage the same performances. But here's the thing that upsets. They also add songs, movements, scenery, but they do it thoughtlessly. I analyze everything from the very beginning. Before staging the play, I imagine what kind of arrangements there will be, for example. If I'm going to stage performances next year, then already now, in advance, this year, I'm warning choreographers to take such work and prepare. And they immediately begin training. They do not ask why. So it turns out that music and movements are already ready for the year. And only then we begin the adjustment, and then we go on to rehearsal. We are all working together, choreographer, choir master, actors and me. We work in such a composition. Do you imitate your colleagues? No, it is forbidden. I have never imitated anyone, and I don't know how to do it. Let's say if you stole something from someone, you won't be able to deceive yourself and say that you didn't. You can lie to someone else, but not to yourself. Why is this needed? Your performances, long road to Mecca, and last longer than a century, are always at the forefront. But at the same time, how hard is it for you to return from festivals without a prize?
Алғашқыда жүлде алғанда Төбіміз көкке жетіп, балалар қуаны. Қазір
Yes, we don't have that. We will definitely get prizes. When we took our first prize, we were incredibly happy. The actors were just happy. And now we are no longer driving for prizes, but simply to stage a performance. But again, we get a Grand Prix. And this is a common thing for us. But the best part is when your colleagues bow their heads before your victories. Probably there is no greater happiness. For example, last year we staged the play and lasts longer than a century at the international festival in the city of Osh. And when the jury, which included experts from different countries, discussed it, one of the jury members from Russia with tears in his eyes said, "Dear colleagues, after this performance, it's not worth even saying anything. Let's just be silent." And they all sat in silence. What other assessment do I need? Is there greater happiness than that? But when I am praised too much, I feel shy. I never think of myself the way they say. I always miss something.
Өзім сондай қойып жатыр деп ойламаймын еш уақытта. Бәрі менде бірдеңе жетпей тұрады. Бәрібір жетпейді.
Сіздің қазір кемелденген шағыңызда қойған дүние бар.
Now, being a master, you stage great works. But there are those that you did in your youth. Of course, your worldview has changed completely. Would you like to review some of your early performances?
Мысалы, ревизорды тоқтатып қойдым. Енді биыл ревизорды қайтадан ревизор. Басынан бастаймын қайтадан. Өйткені актерлар ойнай, оған қалыптасып қалады.
For example, I suspended the Inspector General. This year I will analyze it again. I will start it from the beginning again. The fact is that constantly playing the same play, the actors begin to do this automatically. Both the play and speech are brought to automatism. The soul begins to degrade. Circulation, chants of love from nothingness were also suspended over the past 3-4 years. Now we'll start rehearsing again, and then we'll see. I try to stage different movements, music, forms, so that audience is not bored. I put a great idea in every performance, which is already intertwined with every aspect of the play. That is the main thing. And the spectators see this, catch it, and follow till the end of the performance. Meanwhile, I quietly lead them through the play to the culmination. Music, movements, monologues, then there is a long silence for the audience to come to their senses. And they think. For example, the long road to Mecca is such a performance, as well as and lasts longer than a century. It starts quietly, without noise, without excess things. But they are great. And lasts longer than a century is generally a triptych from the works of Oralkan Bokay, Rosa Mukanova and Chingiz Aytmatov. All these three authors are incredibly interwoven in it and harmonize. Foreigners wonder why three. They think that the author is one person. However, it's not. Each of them is very different. The whole troupe sits silently in the background and only three people play. Just wonderful. And you watch it, sitting in the hall. You see what kind of life you live. You are from the post-war generation, and it seems that the performance "Wish to See You, Lad in Love" is especially warm and close to you, isn't it?
Өзім туралы повесть деген болатын бұл аты. Содан кейін менің атым қожа болды. Кино шыққаннан кейін менің атым қожа болды мұның. Өзім де мектепте оқыдым ғой.
This is my very first book that I read when I was small. It was called A Story of Myself. Then it was called My Name is Koja. Later, the film of the same name was released. You also studied it at school. We all went through what is written there. But then we did not understand much. We could not admit the feelings of the girl whom we were in love with. She also could not say much. Even now you have these echoes in your heart, right? And the viewer too. We also have nostalgia and longing. At that point, the viewer is crying. We went on tours to cities and villages with this performance. We were in the village of Bedibek Sokpakbayev. Everyone cried there too. Let me tell you one story. After the performance in the village's House of Culture, I went outside. And then someone ran up to me, hugged me and started to cry, sobbing. This was a young man who really wanted to say something but could not. He repeated only one thing. "Dear brother, how will I get home now? Why have you come here? How will I go to my wife now?" Then he sat down and began to cry even harder and repeated again, "How will I return to my wife?" It turns out that he did not marry the girl he had loved since high school, but married another girl. And there are many such stories. There was another story. Television journalists were waiting for me, and when I went out to them, I saw a girl with tearful eyes among them. The journalist let her talk first. She hugged me and started to cry and suddenly said, "I was waiting for you. You saved me from death. Thank you. It was only thanks to you that I understood what life is." What to answer for this? I cried too.
Өзіңіз тәрбиелеп жүрген
The elder actors whom you taught everything also went to the art direction. Daurian Sergazin, for example, stages plays. Do you give them any advice? And in general, what qualities do you need to become a director?
Режиссер үшін мен дәуренге айтамын, мен не істеймін, соны істе болды. Менің жасымдағы жігіттер үйінде отыр қазір. Шалдарды ойнап, ақыл көй болып, ал маған
I tell Daurian to work as hard as I do. Actors of my age play only the roles of the elders. And if they give advice, then sitting at home. But for me, it is like death. So I tell Daurian to study my hard work with me. I never feel sorry for myself. The most important thing is to learn this. I advise him not to be afraid to fall. You have to fall. You need to have challenges, experience. And only then you will understand how to find ways and how not to cry. And be sure to find it. I went through this myself. I took a lot from life, I will not hide. All my works, performances, were not approved by the critics. Everyone wrote bad reviews. I always said that I would prove anyway that the director needs me. But I tell him not to copy me. Then it will be difficult. If they copy me and do the same, they will not grow. And their story will end in a couple of years. I tell him to follow his own path. I often advise him to take difficult performances, tackle the most difficult, tackle what seems impossible. And then the potential will be revealed. I advised not to play easy roles.
Оңай тұрған нәрсені қоя салу, оған басқа түрдің қажеті жоқ.
I remembered the story of how you were supposed to play in one performance and overslept. They say that you are very strict. Is it true? Yes, I am strict, because I want my students not to make the mistakes that I made. I made a lot of mistakes. People also say that you are a man with a temper. Is there any benefit from this? No, I have never seen this benefit, and I will never see. What else would you like to say from what I did not ask you about?
Осы істеп жүрген тірлігімді мен неге 30-ымда істемедім ау, 35-імден болмаса 40-ымда неге істемедім деген өкініш бар.
I regret that I did not do much in my 30-40 years. I could have done earlier what I'm doing now, because then I had all the opportunities for this. But at that time, it seemed that youth would never end. And I missed a lot. I spent a lot of energy not on what was needed. I think a lot about this when I'm left alone with myself. I could have started all this even then. Why didn't I do it then? At that time I dreamed, but I did not dream of becoming a director, but dreamed of finding a good director and go after him as an actor. This is what I thought in my youth.
Актер болып сол режиссер артынан жүрер едім деп ойлайтын едім жас кезімде.
If you had not gone to directing, would you become a good actor?
Қатқан актер шығатын едім.
I would have been a great actor.
Жақсы. Уақытыңызды бөліп бізге.
Thank you for this interview. Thank you.
Алдағы
We
жұмыста.
wish you good luck.